Hi, everyone, and welcome to another A&B Horror Movies video. I'm Aaron,
I'm Ben.
and today we are very happy to be joined by Chris LaMartina. Chris, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, y'all. Appreciate it.
Yeah, very much. We're very excited to talk with you today. So, Chris, you are a producer, a writer, a director. I'm sure you wear many hats. What did I leave off?
I've composed music for a bunch of the movies. I've done a little bit of effects, but not the best effects. And editing is the big thing. I mean, I've edited all the movies. But yeah, responsible
Awesome.
for a WNUF Halloween special, the sequel out there, Halloween Mega Tape, Call Girl of Cthulhu, What Happens Next Will Scare You, and yeah, those are the big ones.
I was just going to go through
Yeah.
a run through of all your films. So you may know Chris from WNUF Halloween special. I believe it's 10-year anniversary this year.
Oh my gosh, that's insane. I didn't even think about
2013,
that.
23. Yes.
But see, you know what's funny about it though, because I've always joked about this. Like if we ever did we just did the TerraVision Blu-ray a couple years back, but I've always joked we should do the anniversary based off 1987, not the year we made it.
Yeah, I guess you could do that too.
Yeah, but I'm just psychotic, so whatever.
Well, congratulations, 10 years going strong.
Thank you.
I think every Halloween it seems like it gets even more followers, more viewers, and that's really exciting for you. And like I said, we're really happy to talk with you today. And I do have the DVD and
Nice.
the sequel here.
Hell yeah.
Yeah, yes.
I have a sequel, so I can't wait.
Oh man.
I know
Yeah.
We tried to figure out how to get Ben to the sequel, and
well, so you know what's funny right now? So it's not streaming anywhere, and that's like a whole nother conversation because I kind of don't want it to be streaming for quite some time. But I'll say is we used to ship to the UK, and then we'll talk offline, but like there's some weird thing with now like commerce, like for smaller vendors to ship directly. It's such a nightmare. But let's talk offline. I'll get you a copy. So
awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, like I said, this is very exciting. We're so happy to talk with you today. And Ben, why don't I turn it over to you to ask the first question?
So first of all, well done. It was really good fun to watch, and I've just got to say, for the budget you made it on, it was really, really good. To be fair,
Thank you.
Well done for that.
Well, actually, and those who don't know, it's $1,500, right?
$1,500. Yeah.
That's amazing.
Peanuts. Yeah.
That's amazing.
That was good. Really well done. So it was kind of it is down as horror comedy.
Mm-hmm.
Was it always going to be horror comedy, or was it first written as a darker kind of installment?
So like most of the movies we've made, I mean, like specifically My Voice is very much finding humor in awkwardness or desperation and things like that. I think I've always, one of the things that kind of kept me away from the found footage genre for a long time was the fact that I thought it took itself too seriously. And I have a hard time taking myself seriously all the time. And I think, you know, when we thought about when initially we were like figuring out like okay, if we were to make a found footage movie, what necessarily would that look like with our brand, right? We'd made horror comedies for a long time. I mean, gosh, WNF is probably my 6th feature at that point, and I realized like doing the fake ads would like naturally lend itself to some humor, and I think honestly we tried to do it in a way that the humor wasn't self-aware, right? I mean, that was important to us, like, because I think the second humor becomes self-aware, a lot of movies that take place in the 80s, they do it almost like in this way that's like kind of like making fun of the 80s, not really paying homage or like respectfully, you know, like looking at a period of time for what it really was instead of like a caricature. So no, it was always a comedy. I mean, I feel like I have a hard time not being funny even when I'm trying to be serious. So yeah.
It translates well to the screen. Yeah, that's a great answer. So
go ahead.
And
I will say one other thing there. I will say what's interesting about horror comedy and why I think a lot of people don't like it, and I think this also lends into my background as a musician. It's like you kind of have to know when to keep something serious and when to, you know, make a laugh, right? And horror and comedy do function the same way. It's a joke, it's a punchline, right? It's a setup, it's a payoff. And I think knowing when silence is important and whether you can break that silence with a solid laugh or a solid scare, that's it's some people just don't like doing that because it's, you know, it's like, it seems like, oh, I want something to be scary. But like, one thing I'll tell you was, years ago, I read this instruction manual for people designing haunted houses. And there was this thing that always stuck with me. This is so fucking interesting to me. They said, in the middle of your haunt, have a room where all the lights are bright, because at that point, people's eyes have adjusted to the darkness. And like that bright light in the center of your haunted house basically makes them have to readjust their eyes to the darkness. So the rest of the haunt is equally like scary again, right? And I think horror comedies function the same way. If it's scare, like, I mean, there's some great movies that are like that, right? That are really intense. But I think for my stuff, it's like fun to have something that's a little intense at times or dark. And then, like, you know, the ending of WNUF is tonally way different than a lot of the stuff that comes before. And I think that's by design, because I think that's part of the fun of it.
Yeah.
Oh, for
I
sure.
thought that was some good bits, like where you're hearing the bangs and the knocks and stuff, and they're going back. It's like you said, you had the comedy, but then once you had the bangs and the knocks, and they were going back, you sort of then was drawn in on your seat to what's going to happen now.
Yeah.
I thought that was quite clever. I like that. So.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Good combination. Yeah, agreed.
Appreciate it.
So I know that you filmed WNUF with an actual camcorder, right, to create sort of the VHS 80s feel. What were some of the challenges of doing that and then editing from the VHS tapes, right? And what were some unexpected things that you had to deal with?
Yeah, so WNF, the original one, was shot on some DV cam. So it's still tape. It's digital tape stock called DV cam. And I at the time I had just left I worked for a TV channel, and then my coworkers basically used the gear that we had for the TV channel. So we had this big like shoulder mount ENG cameras, as they call them. And then we also had a couple like SVHS cameras and VHS for some of the other stuff. But with that was the challenge wasn't that difficult in that regard. Like, I actually really felt way more comfortable filming that because I had used those cameras as a camera guy for like a half decade prior, right? So like they felt like an extension of me. What was weird was getting used to a 4:3 aspect ratio again after in my adult life, you know, I mean, once everything went HD, everything was 16:9, right? So, and for anyone who's not a technical person listening to this, it probably sounds like fucking stereo instructions. But like, I mean, honestly, like framing something for more of like a squarish rectangle versus a longer rectangle does change.
Like widescreen versus the square. Exactly.
And that was weird. I mean, I will say, but it got used to it. And now I love doing stuff. I mean, I wish I could do all my stuff 4:3, but then I sound like, was it Zack Snyder did that? And it's like everyone gave him a hard time. But no, I don't know. I mean, like, it was. The thing that was interesting for me was when we shot it, the most magical moment was when I ran it through the VCRs at the end, because like everything still had that look, but like when we were bouncing tapes back and forth, and that's how I used to make movies when I was like, I guess like 11 to 14, I was dueling VCRs and making movies that way. And it really felt like coming home, and it felt really, really like it was really a sweet experience, like putting those VCRs together and just watching like, oh shit, like just the natural degeneration of tape stock going, like, you know, tape was amazing. And yeah, no, that was a really good time. But yeah, no, honestly, I mean, the only thing that was really frustrating about working with the cameras was the SVHS and the VHS cameras we used, the batteries like lasted no time at all. So there would be days where like, well, I guess I'm shooting an hour today. And that was like, that's all that was it. Yeah. Or you'd have to find an outlet and plug it in and be like, run extension cords, which is very annoying. But
take a break. Oh, sure.
Yeah.
It's funny that you say with the VHS though, because it was only like a week ago to 2 weeks ago when I rewatched the movie, because I first found it on YouTube. It was on there ages ago. And I watched it on there. Now, I actually thought it was a lot older than what it was. I honestly thought we was looking at like maybe early 90s.
Yeah.
It's like actually blown my mind that it was 2013. So that, I think,
nicely done.
Yeah, it really well filmed in that way, because
thank you.
proper like 80s sort of, I want to say, grit to it, to the film.
Yeah.
It was really well done, and
Yeah.
you fooled me.
Thank you, sir. Nice. Appreciate it.
Is it more go, Aaron?
Unless you want me to jump in. Go ahead.
So with the movie, you had outside you obviously had the advertisement bits, the adverts and stuff. With those, I guess with outside the haunted location where you had the people dressed up as whether they would trick or treat and whether were they cast or people, sound and stuff that dressed up for the movie? They just did you ask just some randomers and say, did you want to be in this movie?
Yeah. So that's a really good question. So during the we knew we were gonna have people out in a crowd, like sort of just there, right? But no one had that stuff in the script. I forget how it is. So there's some people that actor wise that like were really married to the script that didn't change a single piece of dialogue. Some people ad-libbed or changed it to feel like their own voice. But I was gonna say, I think the script, I'd have to look at it, but I think it just says Frank asks these questions, and we literally went to everyone in that crowd and asked them. Everyone got to answer each of the questions. Do you believe in ghosts? Have you ever seen a ghost? Everyone gave us a response. We only used a couple, and that's how we sort of like creatively edited it, so you can't tell he's talking to everybody. But they were mostly like some of the people had been in other films we had made. Some of the folks were people we just like, oh, they could probably act. And even if they don't act, like some of the folks that aren't great actors, like it kind of works because they're not actors, right? And that's the fortunate part of making the WNUF movies. Like if somebody's not, it just needs to be like a normal person, they can be a little awkward in their performance. Like it actually, it feels more genuine. So yeah.
No, nice.
Well, speaking about the ads, the commercials, it seems like you had a lot of fun making them.
Oh yeah.
And they really captured the 80s and then the 90s really well too in the sequel. What was the process like making the commercials? Do you do them all at once? And then you film go ahead.
No, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So WNUF, the commercials was a little bit different than Out There Howling Mega Tape. So I'll tell you the process for both. So what I will tell you is I have a background at the time I made WNUF, and after that, I was a creative director at a couple different ad agencies. And I was I mean, I always joke that I was like, I would write all the commercials for the WNUF movies that no one would ever fucking let me make, right? Where I was like, oh, this is really fun to like just drown myself in really terrible puns or like come up with concepts that are just so absurd. Like especially with the 90s with Out There Howling Mega Tape, like there's things that are so extreme that I was like, this is my playground, right? Okay. So the process for WNUF was this. I initially started going through and figuring out what access to stock footage I had and what actual resources we had there. And that was like a really fun part of the process. Like we had reached out to some filmmaker friends of mine that actually had shot stuff in the 80s. There was some stuff that we did film for commercials specifically, but then also some stock sites that I knew I could make it look vintage based off the aging of the footage. So I started writing commercials, and at that point I realized like when we made WNUF, we were in pre-production on Call Girl of Cthulhu. So like I was sort of like, oh my God, like this is insane. Like I really have to I need some help doing this. So I had to list my buddy Patrick Stork help me write more commercials. My buddy Mike Moran, a couple different folks, and then we did bring in a couple other filmmakers to make specific ones by themselves. And I think I played different roles on like editing some or shooting some, things like that. But that being said, like we wrote, I mean, for the original WNUF movie, there's like, I mean, Pat Stork wrote like 50 commercials. I think I used like 20 of them. And then I wrote a bunch, Mike wrote a bunch. Then I edited them based off the footage, had people come over to do the voiceovers. Like initially I did all the voiceover myself just to time it out. And then I hired different voiceover talent to do those artists. For the sequel, I realized my favorite part of making the movies was the commercials. And I sort of like fun. Very clear, and I very like was like, okay, what do I want to say about the 1990s? And like I spent way more time thinking about what commercials need to exist as a cultural artifact, what things are doing tonally, what things need to do story-wise. And I spent a lot more time in the commercials in the 90s. Now, what I'll say is it was harder to do because the 80s stuff with WNUF, it's a lot more like local yokel type TV shows. So you have this situation where I could do like 3 or 4 commercials a day.
Yeah.
Yeah, like I could literally like knock out 4 of these in an afternoon for WNUF. It was probably about a commercial a week, maybe 2 commercials a week for the sequel because they were so more complicated. And the joke I've been saying is, my level of technical skill finally evolved to the skill of the 1990s by the time I made the sequel, because they're like some like After Effects and things that I couldn't have done. I didn't have the skill set for it when we made the original WNUF.
Okay.
Yeah. But like, and honestly, like, I mean, like it's a. I mean, I could talk for half an hour about my process on coming up with the commercials and writing that, but that's the basic overview.
Well, I'll just add to that. I do love both films, but now having watched the sequel, I could sort of see your progression. The commercials definitely got better. They're more compact and entertaining, and then it moves faster.
Yes.
And I loved it. I found myself laughing through most of the film.
Thanks.
And I've got to say, the ending was amazing. Ivy Sparks, the look on her face in that final moment, and I know she is your wife in real life.
Yeah.
Awesome. And
thank you so much.
Please tell Melissa that she's fantastic in that film.
I will tell her that. No, it's really funny, like you say that, like it's the commercials and just the idea of like, because the thing that I've been trying to do with the WNUF movies, and you have a question that I think you sent me to talk about, like what's next for that.
Oh yes, we have some viewer questions.
Yeah. So like but I don't want to spoil that yet. So like what I'll say is, with the WNUF movies, I want to really talk about how we dress up culture, right? Like making the original WNUF, okay, like it was an example, it was an excuse to make a found footage movie. But then as I thought about it, and every year as people watch and discover it, there's sort of these moments where you have, like, I'm like, well, what happened to those people in the 1990s, right? Like, what happened to TV ownership? What happened when all these mom and pop TV stations in America started getting bought up by, like, Fox News type corporations, right? So like, and I wanted to talk about, like, naturally how media and culture changes over time, even in the course of a decade. So like, that's what was really fun about doing the commercials. It's like, well, we started doing really way more sensational things with media, way more extreme marketing to children. Like, and I thought that was the fun side of it. Plus, like it's all, I'm a very political person, and I feel like thinking about that, like making essentially a political horror movie was a lot of fun. Yeah.
And it's great. If you're watching and you haven't seen
Thank
it,
you.
definitely check out the sequel. Here it is again. And I know it's not streaming yet, so you have to get the DVD.
I know, I'm a jerk.
Very cool. Yeah, I got it, so I'm very happy with it. And I did want to add one more thing. When you were promoting WNUF, I read that you were actually going to conventions and leaving VHS tapes.
Yes. Yeah. So that was
find and discover the movie, which is a very cool tactic.
Well, so it's really funny. I mean, we only did about 50 of those, but there are a handful of people that like still have them. But it's funny, like the whole idea was, because the problem with found footage movies for me, a lot of the time is, well, if you buy something with a UPC code, or if it's streaming on Amazon or Hulu or Tubi, it's like, surely someone didn't just discover this footage, right? So my whole thing was like, if I really wanted to make someone believe this for a second, I think they'd have to find a VHS tape, and it would just have to have a white spine label or like a face label that just says WNUF Halloween Special. And I mean, I'll tell you right now, as someone who loves just weird Halloween shit, I've gone to yard sales or thrift stores, and you find a tape that just says Halloween 1992, and I have to buy that because I'm like, I don't know what is on this. And I've bought tapes of people's old home movies before, just because it said Halloween on it. I've bought like all kinds of dumb shit that just because it said October 31st. Yeah.
That's awesome.
But it was fun, man. I mean, like that definitely. We also, like, early on with the original WNUF, we uploaded it to a bunch of torrent sites on purpose, and that was like all part of our plan to really like create a whisper campaign. Yeah.
Very cool. Well, it paid off. And I think there's a Vinegar Syndrome edition of WNUF out there now.
There is, yeah. So Vinegar Syndrome was the distributor. TerraVision was the label. And I just gotta give props because TerraVision was just awesome to work with. So I was to make sure they get their props, because TerraVision, I don't think, is no longer a partner label with Vinegar Syndrome. They're doing their own thing, and they're killing it. So. Like, yeah. TerraVision's awesome. I do a lot of Ryan, who runs TerraVision, is a good friend, and I do a lot of their promo work. So yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask, is there any inspiration from a English movie, TV movie called Ghostwatch.
So this is so funny. I get asked this question all the time, and I wish there was, but there wasn't. So basically, Ghostwatch up until, I mean, I saw it a couple years ago now, like I probably saw it like in like 2015 or 2016. I at the time, I have to be careful I say this because I really like Leslie a lot. We've been on a podcast together, and she's really great. At the first time I saw Ghostwatch, I wasn't into it, but it was after WNUF. So like years later, because everyone kept saying like what you were asking, like, have you guys seen Ghostwatch? So what I will tell you is I think Jimmy may have known about it, but he hadn't seen it. Like he was like basically saying like it might be like we might get compared to this or something. I was like, well, I'm not gonna fucking watch it. Like if that's what, you know. But I was gonna say, I don't think he saw it though. So that being said, because it wasn't available in the United States until recently, right? Until it got on Shudder. And I don't think maybe it was on YouTube, but I don't know. That all said, the inspiration was a couple different things. So there was, I mean, there's been like, you know, there's an issue of Tales from the Crypt with called Television Terror, about a live broadcast from a haunted house that was published in the 50s. There's this really great radio drama about like broadcasting live from Frankenstein's castle. That was an old like radio serial. So that's the kind of vibe I was going for. And also the idea of doing commercials, I was like, what would be broadcast as a Halloween special? So like, and one of the locally in Baltimore, the Edgar Allan Poe House did a live seance that was a radio broadcast seance. And that was one of the, like, I spent years trying to find a recording of that to no avail. And but that always sort of kept me in my head. I was like, what if something went wrong during that seance? And that was a lot of the impetus for it. But dude, don't get me wrong. I mean, like Ghostwatch and us, I mean, we're like I mean, I know so many people that do the good double feature of WNUF and Ghostwatch every year. And Leslie is just like, she's just a wonderful woman. We were on a podcast together, I guess, last October, and she said really nice things about WNUF. And I think Ghostwatch is it's funny. I wish I could see it as someone, if I was from the UK, I think it would be a different experience watching it than like me watching it as American, because I felt like some of the vibe wasn't the same necessarily for me. I mean, it's a scary fucking movie, and that's one thing I'll say. It's like, that's great. Yeah,
that's good. Ben, didn't you watch it as a kid? Didn't it terrify you?
Yeah, so it was like it was on as a special Halloween night. And the thing I love about in the US, when you so like I see it on YouTube all the time or on Instagram, you get the channels and they really sell a movie. You've got like all the music, and it's all, even from back in the 80s, it's even better. And it's like, up next, and it's never been done in the UK really. But with Ghostwatch, it was just like, there was no sound. You had the BBC image, and it's like, this may have been images, blah blah blah. So then I think I watched on YouTube, and it actually said there are actors in this film, but obviously I was only 8 or something. So
little kid, yeah.
I watched it and it scared. I said to Aaron, now, if I could go back and tell you the thing that's ever scared me the most in this world, it was Ghostwatch.
Yeah.
Perfect time, perfect age to watch it.
Yeah, and it was just like, and then I think that's why I enjoyed WNUF as well, because Ghostwatch was such a big part of me. Like my
I
found that on YouTube, and you saying that like people have a double feature of it. I think there's a DVD out there somewhere where you've got pack, and it's like it's like gold dust now. I can't find it. So it
was probably somebody like, so I've had to, like, you know, I always appreciate people getting excited about the movies, but a bunch of people have been selling bootleg VHS, like an EP mode of like those two movies. I'm like, God, you guys can't sell these. If you want to make your own copy, go for it. They're bootleg, which is fine. I mean, like, don't get me wrong. I mean, like, that's a large part of fan culture. And like, I mean, like, I just want people to see the stuff ultimately, but at the end of the day, when someone else sells it to someone else, then I'm like, all right, fuck you, buddy. Like, that's the not cool part. Like, if somebody wants to make if somebody wants to make their own thing, I'm like, whatever, dude, that's cool. But like, selling it, that's weird. I will tell you something. It's funny you said about seeing Ghostwatch as a kid. I think about something that I saw when I was a kid. I don't know if you have it. Do you guys have sightings? You ever see sightings over there? It was like a UFO show, like
Bravo. Yeah.
Okay. So the scariest thing that's haunted the hell out of me as a kid was there was an episode of Sightings about the Mayan end of the Mayan calendar in 2012. And I mean Sightings is not a really well produced show, right? It's part of the inspiration for the show Out There in the WNUF sequel.
Yes.
And but there was this whole thing about the end of the world and how, like, you know, the Mayan calendar just ends. And I remember seeing that as like a 9-year-old or a 10-year-old and being like, oh my God, and literally plotting out the rest of my life being like, okay, in 2012, how old will I be? Well, I guess if I have to end, if life ends there, I guess I'll have a decent life. I'll be in my 20s. Like, you know, like, but like it haunted me.
Planning
and it was
it
like,
out.
yeah, but it's crazy to me too. It's like everyone who's making those shows is someone who like creates content now. It's like, you know, they were just trying to keep butts in the seats. They were trying to keep people watching their TV show by making this crazy over the top
Oh, of course,
special.
of course.
Yeah.
I wish I would have seen. I would have loved to have seen a WNUF Halloween special when I was younger, because you say it's comedy, but I would have probably looked at that as being real, because I don't know, the trailers. I mean the adverts are really good. And
No, thanks. Yeah.
Feels,
one of those, and there's
real.
like there's a movie. It's like on after this special. There's a movie in it. Maybe I think it's maybe like a mummy movie or something.
Yeah, Sarcophagus. Yeah.
So cheesily good. I was like, do we Google this? Is it real?
Yeah.
I want to see this movie.
Yeah.
What I will tell you is, if you do want to see Sarcophagus, those scenes of the mummy are from a movie I directed called Grave Mistakes. The mummy is literally only in like 2 minutes of the movie, if that. It like gouges someone's eyes, but like this is also really absurd. I fucking love mummies. And there's not that many great mummy movies, but literally like I'm in my dining room right now doing this interview, but like in my office, I have a whole shrine of mummy toys. I collect mummy stuff for some reason. It's so weird.
That's amazing. Well, we can relate. I don't know if you can see our backgrounds.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely.
Items. Well, this is awesome. I do want to get to some of the viewer questions.
Absolutely.
Make sure we have enough time. Ben, do you want me to take the first one, or do you want to?
Go for it.
Okay. So I've got 2 questions. These are from Nate, who is the Sorosaurus on Instagram.
Okay.
He said, if you could cast a famous horror icon, actor, actress, or director, who would you pick, and what would be their role?
So I thought about this a little bit. So years ago, I was thinking about how much Bruce Campbell and Jeffrey Combs like would be perfect to play like rival siblings. And I'm gonna pitch you guys an idea. So it's basically Step Brothers meets like I guess like Fright Night or like Van Helsing, where Bruce Campbell and Jeffrey Combs would be essentially like the 2 descendants of Van Helsing, and they have to like stop vampires, but they hate each other. Like they don't want to be in the same room ever.
I'm in. That sounds awesome.
That's my pitch. Yeah.
Perfect. Let's see. I got one more from Nate. This is, since the 80s and 90s have been covered in your first 2 films, or the WNUF films. Is there any chance of an early millennium themed film coming up?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's ultimately what will happen, right? So like, I think the trajectory, especially if I talk about the films getting like more political, I think like I'm going to plan to make a movie, probably not anytime soon, to finish this, as I'll call it, a trilogy that'll take place in 2004. And it'll be a really, I'm still thinking through what I want to do. Originally I was going to call it Celebrity Exorcism, and I was going to have it basically be about how like the polarization in America starts to begin really seriously right after 9/11, with like, you know, just like this like really intense how we just treat each other like monsters, and how that's only gotten worse over the next 20 years. Then the other night I was on Tubi, and I saw a movie called Celebrity Exorcism on Tubi, and I was like, son of a bitch. Because I was going to do it like almost like a VH1 style, like all these washed up celebrities, but then still like, but like the problem is, the problem is now that title's taken, and I have a couple ideas, but that being said, I know what I'm going to do for that. So that will exist, but I've got probably 3 or 4 things I want to do before I do that one. One thing I will tell you about WNUF fans, or fans of I should say, of Out There Halloween Megatape, we are going to make We're actually probably going to start shooting it in a couple months. We are making, if WNUF is eventually a trilogy, I am making what I will call my Ewok adventure. We're doing it's called Trick or Treat with Reed Richmond. So George Stover, Reed Richmond, from Out There Halloween Mega Tape, he will return in a true Halloween special, a 60-minute like TV show basically about the history of Halloween, the folklore behind vampires, werewolves, things like that. And it's literally because I was like, I just want to have fun and hang out with George for a while. And that's like, I wrote this thing, me and I'm sorry, my buddy Rob Walker and I wrote this thing, and no, it's gonna be a good time.
Cool. Awesome. Great answers. Ben, do you want to do the next one from Robert?
This is from Robert, Robbie Retro. He's put, I'd love to know who in the horror community has reached out and said they loved it, and have you had any surprises by any of
the most surprising one that was just like an honor for me was Michael Dougherty. So like the director of Trick or Treat and Krampus. He posted about it, and then he sent me a DM on Twitter just to say that he thought it was fabulous. And I sent him a copy of the sequel, and just That's really awesome. Sweet and kind. I mean, like Trick or Treat is one of those horror movies that I watch every Halloween. So like that was just amazing to me. I mean, there's a handful of people that like pop up. I think that's the one that just like was like blew my mind. I was gonna say one of the people that was really cool was I don't know if you guys ever listened to Last Podcast on the Left. Henry Zabrowski on that podcast. He's a huge horror fan and he loved WNUF, and he actually got involved in the sequel. Yeah, so like if you listen to the Trader Tony commentary on the WNUF sequel disc, that's Henry Zabrowski. So like he did a commentary as the bootleg video pirate that's selling these movies in the sequel. And I should probably explain that for anyone who's watching or listening that hasn't seen the sequel. The whole point is this time you've bought a copy of this tape from a mail order catalog. So like when I was growing up in the 90s, like there were a lot of times I couldn't find certain versions of movies. So I would get these print catalogs sent to my house where I'd go through and be like, oh yeah, Cannibal Holocaust, I'll buy that, and I'll send in my $20 or whatever. But yeah, Zabrowski was just awesome, and did this whole in character commentary as the guy that runs the mail order catalog company. It's really fucking funny. Like I think it's as funny, if not funnier, than the movie. So
yeah. And that's the what is it? The Trader Tony's Tape Dungeon. Those segments. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah,
yes.
That's right.
Yeah. Some of those titles are amazing, and that.
Well, and if you ever see I have we made a whole catalog of his movies. So like literally like when COVID screwed up the sequel shoot, like we were supposed to shoot a lot of the movie during that first part of lockdown. My wife, Melissa and I like hunkered down, and we would like crack open a bottle of wine and riff on fake movie titles, and then I would flesh them out. And we have a fake mail order catalog of 350 fake movies that you could buy from Trader Tony's Tape Dungeon. So like I only sell them as the VHS bundle, but then like I'm a pushover, so I usually bring copies to conventions, or if I see someone in person, I give them a copy. So
that's hysterical.
Yeah. And then we did like a week where we sold them standalone as well. Yeah.
Cool.
Nice.
Ben, do you want to do the last questions, or do you want me to do it?
Where are we? Oh,
Brian, you want to do Brian's questions?
Brian's. Oh, he's got two. Yeah. He says, I appreciate the physical effects in your work. Is there an effect from one of your movies that was particularly difficult to set up and film, or do you have a favorite effect from one of your films?
Mm-hmm. So I will say the most difficult movie start to finish for effects was Call Girl of Cthulhu, which is streaming on Tubi, so anyone can watch that. But Melissa's character, and then Call Girl is the movie that Melissa and I met and fell in love making. That's great. Yeah, she's my lead actress. It was certainly creepy at the time, but we fell in love and we're married and we have a house and cats. So
amazing. Congratulations.
But I was gonna say there's a ton of insane effects in there. And what I'll say is like it's so difficult, or not difficult, it's very tricky to schedule out how you even shoot, what order you shoot effect scenes in, especially with a low budget when you might have only one or two chances to do something, or like wardrobe that you can't get bloody again, things like that. So the craziest thing was probably the finale of Call Girl of Cthulhu, because Melissa is in this huge, for lack of a better term, it's like a Jabba the Hutt type, like her face is glued into these prosthetics, and then we have 4 puppeteers underneath her doing all these tentacles, and then that scene subsequently ends with all these cult members, their heads exploding. And there's like, so like, it was really crazy. So the effects team on that was Jason Cook and Kaylee Brown. Kaylee passed away a couple years ago, unfortunately. And I mean, their effects are amazing. Like they were they're just like phenomenal. It was really stressful. I mean, I know they had a really hard time making the movie. It was very stressful. And but I mean, the effects scenes, like when you see that movie, you'll be like, holy shit. Like it was insane. And we shot it over 4 days, because it was like I had to like do sections and bits and pieces based off like actor availability or just how long certain effect scenes. The other thing I'll say that took a long time to do was we had a werewolf transformation in a movie I made called Witch's Brew, and that was tough because we had to basically shoot some stuff, do more makeup, come back and do more. We would like shoot other scenes in between them while the effects team was doing the makeup. But yeah, it was I mean, effects is tough, and that's the funny thing. The WNUF movies don't even have that much special effects comparatively to the rest of the stuff I've done. But most people know me for them, so it's like, yeah.
Of course. Oh, cool. Go ahead, Ben. You can do the last one.
Nothing. Yeah. This is from
Also from Fake Voorhees. I don't know if you mentioned his
Okay.
Instagram name.
We know Brian.
We know Brian. Yes.
How did you get George Stover involved in your movies, and what is your favorite Stover movie that you didn't direct?
Okay. So George is, before he is an actor, I will say George is a fan. Like he's truly like a horror fan. He loves the shit. And a lot of people don't know this, but he was one of the original publishers of some of the first earliest horror zines in the 1960s. Just amazing stuff. And so George came to a screening of one of my early movies, and I knew who he was. Obviously he's local. I think royalty in the sense that a bunch of John Waters movies, Don Dohler films. So I didn't realize we could get someone that I didn't realize George was that accessible, right? So we put him in a movie, and he very quickly became what I will say is my third grandpa, right? Like we go get dinner probably like once every month or two. He's just a very sweet man, and it's funny. Like I always joke, he's like the Bela Lugosi to my Ed Wood, or like the Peter Vincent to my Charlie Brewster, or the Doc to my Marty McFly. Like he's just like, I adore that man. And he's great. His house is like a fucking museum. Like talk about my love of mummies. He's got a whole shrine, like the creature from the Black Lagoon.
Wow.
But anyway, so my favorite Stover movie that I didn't direct. I'm gonna say, I think it's fun, and I don't know if it's necessarily the best movie he's been in, but I think it's his best. Like it's what I like him is when he plays the villain in Blood Massacre. So like one of the later Don Dohler movies that's like more like a straight slasher. Because he's like this like violent, like it's just not George. And when you meet George, it's like, dude, he's a teddy bear, but then you see him be like this tough guy, which is kind of just it's against type, and I like that.
Awesome. Yeah. Great answers. Well, again, go ahead, Ben.
So I was just saying that was a good question, actually.
Yeah, it was really good. Great questions. Thank you, Brian. Let's see. I know we also asked you in advance to think about what are your top 5 favorite found footage mockumentary films.
Okay.
Why don't you tell us what those are? We'll see if they're the same ones that we picked.
All right. It's funny. Because I don't like a lot of found footage stuff, so that's what's like. I always this is tough to talk about. So I do have 5. Okay, I'm trying to figure out. I didn't write them in an order though, so don't think this is ranked.
That's fine.
I think Lake Mungo is a fabulous movie.
It's a good one.
Like I think it's really chilling and just really unique in how the story unfolds. I thought Deadstream, like it was on Shudder last year, is so good. Like Deadstream is just phenomenal. It's like and that's like a good example of like horror comedy working really well, because that's equally scary and hilarious.
It's perfect, right? I love the meat cam bit when he puts the camera on a Slim Jim.
Yeah. I'll say I love Host. I thought so like and I've become
Yes.
friends over time with Jed Shepard. Jed's a great guy. And that's actually funny talking about like you know people that are like notably like in horror. Like I mean Jed being a WNUF fan was really sweet to start talking to him. But I thought Host was great. Plus Host is a great example of like it's only 60 minutes. It's like that's what it needs to be, and that it's just like so well and well done.
So scary. Yeah. And that was, we
Yeah.
weren't really getting a lot of horror during COVID, during the pandemic. And for that to come out,
Yeah.
mind blowing. It was so
It was
good.
definitely the zeitgeist, I'll say.
Yes.
The Blair Witch Project, I have to say, because it's like, you know, that's the OG, and it's like I think it's really well done. We're actually we're wrapping up a movie that Melissa directed that was executive produced by Ed Sanchez. So that's kind of cool.
Excellent.
Yeah. But I don't know if I'm allowed to talk about the title or anything. So I probably can't talk about it.
Keep us updated. Maybe we'll have Melissa.
Yeah, I will. It hasn't been announced
so cool.
yet. That's why.
Okay.
And then my last one, because that's I struggle for a last one, and maybe I could either go Poughkeepsie Tapes because I think it's kind of an interesting one, or and this is not one people talk about very often, but Last Exorcism. I remember really enjoying Last Exorcism, but I haven't seen it for probably a decade. But yeah,
and the sequel is good too. We were just talking about that.
I never
Ted
saw
and
the
I were talking
sequel.
about it.
Yeah,
Oh, it's really good.
What about you guys? Yeah.
Let's see. I grabbed a few. It's kind of hard. I picked The Tunnel, which is an Australian.
Never seen that.
Found footage.
Okay.
This is
I'm gonna
great.
write this down.
Check this one
I
out.
told you about that.
What's that, Ben?
Aaron?
What did you say?
I believe I told you about that one, and I was like, "You go watch this."
You may have. I got the umbrella edition
Nice.
of it. Yeah, it's great.
Nice.
Classic here, Cannibal Holocaust is great, and it's awesome in 4K. If you haven't
Nice.
seen it in 4K, check that out. Europa Report, more of a sci-fi film. It's about the Europa moon. I think it's Jupiter's moon. They go to it looking for life, and they find life.
Oh God.
I threw this in only because of the Ratman segment, which is
I haven't seen that
similar.
one yet.
Oh, it's really good. It's about a newscaster, and they go down into these tunnels, and it's like a live recording, and then she comes back on air after it. Check it out. I think it's the first.
Okay.
Ratman. In fact, if you look here, you can see that's a bit from it.
Oh man! All right, I'll definitely check that out.
What is that?
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody, I think after 94 came out, somebody was like, "You need to see this," and I was like, I didn't have a chance to check it out yet, but yeah,
check that out. And then I just grabbed 3 others. I got Willow Creek, which is great, Sasquatch film. As Above, So Below is pretty good, and of course the Blair Witch. And
got to.
Those are mine.
Nice.
I'm going to go with Cloverfield. Absolutely love Cloverfield.
Yeah.
Apollo 18 is in that one.
Well, no, it's funny. I remember the ads for that, but I never saw that one. It looked terrifying.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It's funny because it's out in space, but yeah, it's got such a good claustrophobic feel to it.
Yeah,
that's good.
It's so clever in the way that you've got the vastness of space, outside your ship, but yet you are confined to this. Yeah, that was really good.
That's cool.
I knew Aaron was kind of going to choose Blair Witch Project, and I had an inkling like to say it. So I actually didn't mind the second one. And I just want to say, when I say the second one, I don't mean Book of Shadows. I mean just the Blair Witch.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't talk about that one.
Yeah.
I don't know.
That one, the Book of Shadows is bizarre. I haven't seen that since I was probably in like high school. But it's crazy to me. Book of Shadows is one of those weird things where it's like such a it's so meta, and then it's also insane when you realize, isn't it the guys who did like Paradise Lost, like that like documentary? I'm gonna look it up now. I feel like I have to, but it's very bizarre when you realize who made it.
It felt rushed, and I don't know. I haven't watched it in years.
It probably was. I mean, they released it a year after the original. It's like, holy moly.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Yeah. I'm also going to give a shout out to Ghostwatch because
it's a great addition to
it. Killed my childhood.
Killed your childhood.
I was scared of every noise in my house after that.
Anytime somebody banged on the pipes. Yeah.
Yes. Is that 5? Cool. I lost count. Was that 5? Okay. Let's see. I have one last question for you. With the fall season and spooky season pretty much upon us, what movie or movies do you watch every October? What do you find? What are your go-to
Great question.
Halloween films?
So what I will tell you is the ones I always try to, so I always sort of ease into Halloween. I feel like a good September horror movie is Fright Night. I love the original Fright Night. And then what I'll say is like October, like, so I mentioned Michael Dougherty's Trick or Treat, but I think the big ones for me, there's a made for TV movie that was produced to cash in on Michael Jackson's Thriller called The Midnight Hour. And The Midnight Hour is, I mean, it's a very bizarre movie, and just it's totally like kitchen sink type horror. Like there's a werewolf, there's ghosts, there's zombies, there's vampires. It's bizarre, and it kind of takes place in a town called The Midnight
I've never
Hour. It's
seen
great.
it. I'm gonna have to check it out. I'm gonna make a note.
It's really good. And then I'll say, Halloween day, I usually start the morning. I play the soundtrack to Mad Monster Party, and then I put on the animated the Halloween Tree, the Ray Bradbury Hanna-Barbera movie. And then throughout the night, so every Halloween but it's funny, I don't necessarily watch features on Halloween because we have a bunch of trick-or-treaters in our neighborhood, and I collect film prints. I collect 16mm film prints. So we make bags of candy for the kids, bags of toys. We give shots and pumpkin beers out to the parents, and then on my porch we show film prints.
Yeah.
So like I have like the old Disney skeleton dance. I've got a copy of oh my god, I'm trying to think of it, like Disney Halloween stuff. Bunch of like old like Casper the Friendly Ghost things, and we just show those things all night.
That's so cool. I want to come to
I
your
mean,
house on Halloween.
Come on down, man. Seriously, we order pizzas. Yeah,
sounds cool.
It's so annoying because the US, like, you guys really do appreciate.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
and like everyone's out doing this and trick or treating, and we get like rain. And that's it.
Yeah.
So anyone who even wants to go out trick or treating is like, last year, my partner, I've sent a picture to Aaron. My partner like decorated the whole house. It was all lit, everything everywhere. But the rain was like, all day. So,
oh man,
a lot of people sort of cut, but yeah, it's kind of smart. But even with TV, you guys have all like really cool stuff over there on, and we might get like a showing of.
That's so sad.
It is, yeah.
Ben, you and your family should come here this year for Halloween.
Yeah,
take you over to Salem.
Well, don't go to Salem on Halloween. That'll be an awful experience. Because Salem, and that's what's crazy. Salem now, and let me not de-evolve this conversation just talking about Salem, but like it's crazy in October. Like literally lines to get in the stores. So. I remember with like you can't go. I mean, now I feel like you can't go past like the last week of September before it's batshit. You know,
and it seems to start earlier and earlier each year. Now that it's September 1st, I bet it's already insane.
Yeah,
driving through it is a nightmare.
And the thing is, it's such a nice.
It's fun though. It's fun. Yeah.
I always say to Aaron, his street looks straight out of a Halloween movie. So I'll speak to him maybe on the video in his backyard, and I'm like, I would not be surprised if Michael Myers was just staring over the fence
on the other side of the shrubs. Awesome. Well, Chris, this has been incredible. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us.
Absolutely.
Before we go, how can people find you on social media? And more importantly, how can viewers get copies of these?
Yeah, so I'll plug the capitalist thing first. So it's WNUF.bigcartel.com. So yeah, WNUF.bigcartel.com. And then find me on Instagram. It's just Chris LaMartina, my name, Lamart. Oh my God, Jesus Christ, LaMartina. That's on Instagram, and then also Twitter I'm on, but Twitter's kind of falling apart. So I feel like I've been using Blue Sky a little bit more. But yeah, but honestly, Instagram's probably best. Instagram, Twitter, and Blue Sky. And then I usually don't friend like a lot of folks on Facebook, but if you send me a message and say you saw me on here or somebody has questions, they can feel free to reach out. But yeah.
Okay, great. And that's how we found you on Instagram.
Yeah.
Yes. Well, like I said, thank you so much. This has been amazing, and we can't wait to rewatch your movies this October.
Definitely.
Thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate it.
Before I say my piece, I just want to say, Chris, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. Same as Aaron's just said, the WNUF movie was such a blast to watch. And I will say, if you haven't seen it and you're looking for something to watch this Halloween, definitely go and get yourself a copy and watch it for Halloween because it's super fun.
Thank you so much.
Over to Instagram, follow us over there, and cheers for watching as usual.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.